When a hail of bullets ended the life of music icon DJ Sumbody in November 2022, it seemed like just another tragic, unsolved in South Africa's entertainment scene. But what we've seen since proves it was far from that. Investigators have uncovered a hidden world of contract, powerful businessmen, and a political cover-up that reaches the highest levels of power. And now, shocking new details point to a direct link between DJ Sumbody's assassination and one of South Africa's most controversial figures, Vusimuzi cat Matlala. But before we get into the dark web of corruption and surrounding his, we first need to understand who DJ Sumbody was and how the empire he built changed his life forever. Upa John Sifoka wasn't just another name in the Amapiano scene. Born in Pretoria on June 9, 1984, he was a man shaped by the streets that raised him. Friends and fans called him the Mayor of Pitori, and honestly, the nickname fit perfectly. Sifoka's early life was a mix of ambition, hustle, and raw determination. He studied at Tshwane University of Technology, but dropped out in his second year to chase a dream he couldn't ignore: music. To make ends meet, he worked in the taxi industry, first as a queue marshal and later behind the wheel of his father's taxis. But Sifoka wasn't built to stay behind the wheel forever. His entry into the entertainment world began quietly, producing and presenting shows at a community radio station in Tshwane. That's where DJ Sumbody was born. Not just the name, but the persona that would later dominate airwaves across the country. His big break came in 2018 with Monet Mpole featuring Casper Neo Vest. The song wasn't just a hit, it was an anthem. It blasted from cars, clubs, and street corners everywhere, quickly going triple platinum. Overnight, DJ Sumbody went from a local favorite to one of South Africa's most celebrated artists. But Sifoka was more than a musician. He was also a smart businessman. With his business partner, Kagiso Setsetse, he started the Ayep lifestyle brand. These were fancy lounges that mixed good food, music, and nightlife. Ayep started in Pretoria and became very successful, even opening a new location in Cape Town. But this success brought Sifoka and his partner into a dangerous world. The nightclub business, which makes a lot of money in cash, is known to attract gangs, and Ayep was no different. According to court records and media reports, this expansion led to a direct conflict between DJ Sumbody and Setsetse, and one of Cape Town's most feared figures, Ralph Stanfield, the alleged leader of the 28's gang, and his wife, Nicole Johnson. The Stanfields were originally brought in to handle security for the venue, but the partnership soon spiraled into chaos. Just 2 weeks after Ayep Cape Town opened in 2021, Setsetse alleged that around 10 deaths. Men linked to Stanfield stormed the venue, intimidating staff and patrons, an apparent attempt to send a message. From there, things only got worse. Setsetse claimed that he and DJ Sumbody were forced under threat to hand over a third of their business shares to Johnson's mother, while money from the venue's pay points was allegedly redirected to someone tied to the Stanfields. The conflict grew so severe that it reached the Western Cape High Court. On April 28, 2023, the court issued an order banning Ralph Stanfield from entering the Ayep venue. The empire DJ Sumbody built to celebrate success had now placed him face-to-face with some of the most dangerous people in the country. Setsetse later fled South Africa for Dubai, saying that returning home would mean certain death. But DJ Sumbody stayed behind, still moving between his music, his businesses, and his dreams. What he didn't know was that the world he helped create, a world of fame, luxury, and high-stakes business, had already become a trap. The dangerous mix of nightlife and crime was a part of the business DJ Sumbody had built, and it became the background for his. After DJ Sumbody's, South Africa was left in shock. The man who filled clubs with joy and built one of the most successful nightlife empires in the country had been gunned down on a quiet Pretoria street in what looked like a scene from a gangster movie. But behind the headlines and tributes, investigators were staring at one of the most puzzling cases they'd ever seen. For more than a year, the case moved at a snail's pace. Detectives had no clear suspects, no solid motive, and no witness brave enough to come forward. At first, Gauteng's organized crime unit took the lead, but as details started to surface about who DJ Sumbody was connected to and how deep the underworld ties ran, it quickly became clear that this was no ordinary. The investigation was eventually handed over to the SAP's political task team, a group reserved for cases involving high-profile targets, political figures, or assassinations linked to organized crime. For months, they dug through CCTV footage, financial records, and phone data, Every lead seemed to hit a wall. Whoever DJ Sumbody had done it with precision. It was a military-style hit, executed with the kind of coordination that only comes from experience. But then came the breakthrough, not from an informant or a lucky confession, but from science. When police recovered shell casings from the scene on Woodland Drive, they sent them for ballistic analysis. The results stunned everyone involved. Each bullet carried tiny, unique markings left behind by the rifle that fired them. And when those markings were run through the national database, the system lit up with matches. The weapon used to DJ Sumbody wasn't new to the streets. It had a history, a deadly one. Investigators traced it back to several other across Gauteng. It was the same AK-47 used in at least 10 different execution styles. This wasn't just about DJ Sumbody anymore. The evidence revealed that the same hit squad responsible for his had been operating like ghosts, taking out targets and vanishing before anyone could trace them. The police began calling it the ghost gun because it seemed to appear, spill blood, and disappear without a trace. When detectives mapped out the timeline of crimes linked to that weapon, a dark story began to unfold. The killing stretched back long before Sumbody was ambushed in 2022. One of the first victims was another DJ, Hector DJ Vintos Buthelezi, who was riddled with bullets outside a nightclub in Orlando East. Just like Sumbody, his murder made headlines, but no one was ever caught. Then came March 2023. A well-known Johannesburg businessman, Don Dini Tindleni, was driving his BMW on the N1 highway when his car was suddenly sprayed with bullets. Witnesses said it looked like something out of a movie. Once again, the weapon used was the same AK-47. The connection between these crimes was now undeniable. By the time investigators linked the gun to its next victim, it was clear they were dealing with professionals. On April 2024, an engineer named Armand Swart was shot dead outside his workplace in Vereeniging. He had no criminal record, no known enemies, and no gang ties. Yet, he was executed in the same cold, methodical manner. What tied these men together wasn't friendship or business. It was the same deadly tool that had torn through so many lives across the province. Of all the crimes connected to it was the killing of Armand Swart that finally gave police the key to solving the whole case. DJ Sumbody and DJ Vintos were complicated and tied to the shady world of entertainment. But Swart's death had a clear reason: to silence someone who had reported on a corrupt government contract worth millions of rand. The story started 2 weeks before the shooting. Swart's company, Q-Tech Engineering, worked for the big government company Transnet. Q-Tech reported a problem to the government. The company had found that prices in a government contract were shockingly high. A small, simple train spring that the company made and sold for 3 rand and 20 cents each was being sold to Transnet by another company for 152 rand each. That's a price hike of more than 4,000%. What should have been a small 25,000 rand order had been inflated into a 1.2 million rand jackpot for a group of well-connected fraudsters. Once that report landed on the wrong desk, the message was clear. Someone had to pay for it. According to investigators, a bounty of 1 million rand was placed on the head of the Q-Tech manager who had exposed the fraud. The order went out. Quietly, the kind that never gets written down or spoken aloud outside trusted circles. Within days, the same hit squad tied to the ghost gun was dispatched to Vereeniging. Their mission was simple: eliminate the whistleblower before the investigation gained traction. But on April 17, 2024, everything went horribly wrong. That morning at the industrial park, Armand Swart sat in his white sedan waiting for the security gate to open. Then a dark vehicle pulled up beside him. Before he could react, a burst of automatic gunfire tore through his car. In seconds, 23 bullets ripped through the metal, shattering the glass and ending his life instantly. The attackers sped away. The assassins thought they had completed their mission. But within hours, they realized they had made a catastrophic mistake. They had killed the wrong man. Armand wasn't the whistleblower. He was just an engineer, in the wrong place at the wrong time. That mistake was the beginning of their downfall. For investigators, this killing was different from the others. The deaths of DJ Sumbody and DJ Vintos were surrounded by rumors and speculation about underworld rivalries, but Swart's case came with something far more valuable: paperwork. There was a whistleblower report, official correspondence, and a clear timeline that connected a corruption complaint to a professional assassination. This wasn't a street feud or a nightclub power struggle. This was a hit ordered to silence someone who had uncovered government fraud. That paper trail gave the political killings task team exactly what they needed: a solid link between organized crime, business corruption, and the professional killers who had been terrorizing Gauteng. As the investigation deepened, phone records, financial transactions, and surveillance data began to form a web of connections, leading to the same shadowy network. With the gun linking the crimes and the clear reason for the Armand Swart murder, the police were ready to act. On Monday, July 21st, 2025, the police team raided several places in Gauteng at the same time. They arrested 4 men and caught the group they believed was the hit squad. The man accused of being the boss behind the was Katiso KT Molefe, a 60-year-old businessman from Santon who owned hotels and properties. Molefe looked like a successful businessman, but the police said his real job was planning paid killings. When he was arrested for DJ Sumbody's murder, he was already out of jail on bail for the killing of Armand Swart. This showed how bold he was. He also had a criminal record from 2004 in the United Kingdom for possessing cannabis. He was accused of ordering the killings of DJ Sumbody, DJ Vintos, and Armand Swart. 3 of his associates were also arrested. One of them, to the shock of many, was a senior police officer. Detective Michael Poole-Tao had spent 30 years in law enforcement and was once decorated for his service. The discovery that he had allegedly been part of a hit squad shattered public trust and sent a chilling message about how deep corruption might run within the system. Investigators believed Tao used his position to shield the crew from suspicion, feeding them inside information and helping them evade detection. The other 2 suspects, Tiago Floyd Mabusela and Musa Kakana, were believed to be the triggermen, the ones who carried out the ruthless execution-style hits ordered by Molefe and his powerful clients. Witnesses described the killings as precise, professional, and terrifyingly efficient. Each target was ambushed in a way that left no room for survival and no trace of the attackers. But the drama didn't stop there. When police raided Molefe's lavish Santon home, they were met with a surprise that would ignite headlines across the country. Inside the mansion was none other than Johannesburg politician Kenny Kunene. Known for his flamboyant lifestyle and outspoken personality, Kunene's presence at the home of an accused underworld boss set off a firestorm. Within hours, he was suspended by his political party. He denied any involvement in Molefe's crimes, saying he was simply visiting, but the optics were disastrous. South Africans were left wondering just how deep the ties between organized crime and politics really went. After the arrests, prosecutors moved quickly. Molefe and his alleged crew were charged with multiple counts of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and the illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. The task force called it one of the biggest organized crime takedowns in recent years. Yet, even with the suspects behind bars, the mood in Pretoria and Johannesburg was far from relieved. The more investigators uncovered, the clearer it became that this wasn't just one man's operation. Molefe and his crew were part of something bigger, a network that functioned like a business. Murder, it seemed, had become a service for hire, available to anyone with the money and the power to pay for it. As investigators dug deeper into KT Molefe's shadowy empire, something even more chilling began to emerge. It turned out that Molefe and his hit squad weren't just working for one client. They were taking contracts from multiple powerful figures across Gauteng. This wasn't just a small-time gang. It was a full-fledged murder-for-hire network operating right under the noses of the authorities. And at the center of this tangled web stood another familiar and controversial name, Vusimuzi cat Matlala. The link to Matlala came almost by accident. During the interrogation of 2 of Molefe's alleged hitmen, Musa Kakana and Tiago Mabusela, investigators made a shocking discovery. These same men, already accused of carrying out the assassinations of DJ Sumbody and whistleblower Armand Swart, were also tied to another violent attack, the attempted murder of actress and socialite Tebogo. Thobajane back in 2023, police claimed that this hit had been ordered by none other than Tebogo's former partner, Cat Matlala. That connection blew the case wide open. It wasn't just about Molefe anymore. The same were allegedly doing jobs for multiple clients, like assassins on call for anyone with enough money and influence to pay the price. To understand just how dangerous that revelation was, you have to understand who Cat Matlala really is. He's not just any businessman. Matlala is what South Africans call a tenderpreneur, someone who built his wealth through questionable government tenders and political connections. Over the years, his name has surfaced in several corruption allegations, but none as shocking as the one tied to the Tembisa hospital scandal. That's where more than $125 million in public funds vanished into thin air. An investigation that cost whistleblower Babita Deokaran her life in 2021 after she was brutally gunned down outside her home. Many suspected that Matlala had a hand in the dirty contracts linked to that case, but no one ever dared say it publicly. Now, with the same tied to both Molefe and Matlala, the puzzle pieces started to fit together. It wasn't a coincidence. This was a dangerous ecosystem of greed, violence, and political protection. It seemed that both men, Molefe and Matlala, were using hit squads not only to silence rivals, but also to protect their financial empires, which were built on corruption. Then came the real shockwave. During a televised press briefing that sent ripples through the country, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nilanhla Mkhwanazi went off script. He accused his own colleagues, and even the National Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, of deliberately shutting down cases that involved Cat Matlala. According to Mkhwanazi, the minister himself had received payments from suspects linked to corruption networks, implying that high-ranking officials were shielding powerful businessmen from justice. The allegations were so explosive that President Cyril Ramaphosa had no choice but to step in. Within hours, Minister Mchunu was suspended, and a full judicial inquiry was launched to investigate what was being called one of the biggest political scandals in years. The deeper investigators went, the darker the truth became. The link between the DJ Sumbody assassination and Matlala's network showed just how deeply organized crime had rooted itself in South Africa's political and business elite. After the suspects were arrested, the case went to court. In late July 2025, the four accused men, Katiso Molefe, Michael Puletau, Tiago Mabusela, and Musa Kakana, appeared in the Alexandra Magistrates Court for the first time. The three alleged hitmen decided not to ask for bail. This left the alleged boss, KT Molefe, as the only one fighting to be let out of jail. The hearing to decide if he could be let out of jail, held on August 2025, was a big test for the police's case. The government's lawyers argued strongly that he should not be released. They said Molefe was a dangerous and powerful criminal who would likely run away. They showed strong evidence to back this up. The court heard about WhatsApp messages supposedly sent on the day DJ Sumbody was killed. That seemed to show the hitmen waiting to be paid. The government lawyers also pointed to Molefe's past, including his drug crime in the UK in 2004 and the fact that he had traveled out of the country many times. They argued he had the money and the reason to run away to avoid a long time in prison. The strong case against him, linking him to 5 with the same AK, was the main reason they said he would flee. On August 20th, 2025, Judge Renier Boshoff made his decision. He agreed with the government and denied Molefe bail. He stated that Molefe had not demonstrated the exceptional circumstances required for release in such serious crimes. The judge decided that Molefe posed a danger to the public and that it was not in the interest of justice to release him. DJ Sumbody's family was relieved by the decision, and the National Prosecuting Authority, NPA, said it sent a strong message against violent crime. But this win for the government did not last long. Molefe's lawyers immediately appealed the decision to the Johannesburg High Court. In a shocking and debated decision, the High Court changed the first judge's decision. On October 10, 2025, Katiso KT Molefe was granted bail for 400,000 rand and was released from jail. Letting a man accused of planning many paid go free, even after a lower court said he was a flight risk and a danger, was a confusing event that made people ask serious questions about the justice system.